Heartwarming tale, discover how a one cowboy purchase unveiled the incredible love of his life. In a small Texas town, a cowboy named Jake discovered a treasure during a yard sale: an old, worn cowboy hat. For just $1, this hat wasn't just a piece of headwear, it was a vibrant thread in the rich tapestry of his past. The moment Jake placed it on his head, he felt the weight of history and love envelop him like a warm embrace. It was his grandfather's hat, the one he'd seen worn with pride, the one that had symbolized resilience before life threw them all into the storm of economic despair. Jake, at 29, worked tirelessly at the local ranch, pushing through the grueling days filled with sweat and toil. He lived for the wide open spaces, the warmth of the sun beating down, and the gentle whispers of the wind through golden fields. But the closure of the ranch had shaken everything. Job losses echoed through the town like a mournful song, and though he fought to keep his spirits high, doubt loomed like dark clouds. Still, he found joy in the little things, even if they felt like flickering candles against a howling wind. As Jake placed the hat on his head, memories washed over him: the laughter of family, the stories shared around a crackling fire, the lessons learned in the dusty fields. Each memory ignited a flicker of hope in his heart. It was more than a hat, it was a reminder of resilience, of family bonds woven with love. As he mixed laughter with the townsfolk during potlucks, he clung to this newfound strength, wearing it like a badge. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, just as the clouds seemed to clear, the storm returned. His sister, Sarah, burdened by her own trials, took aim at Jake, blaming him for their family's financial struggles. In a moment of fractured communication, the joy once shared turned to cold and bitter misunderstandings. The remains of their childhood bond lay in shambles, twisted by hurtful words and emotions bubbling like a pot about to boil over. One crisp autumn evening, the local church hosted a potluck, and Jake could feel his heart pounding against the walls of his chest. He saw Claire, the compassionate schoolteacher, watching with an understanding gaze. She embodied the spirit of the community, caring and generous. The sound of laughter bubbled around them, but the tension with Sarah hung like thick fog. As the night progressed, tense moments erupted when Mr. Collins, a local businessman, publicly humiliated a veteran seeking help. Sparks ignited inside Jake. He could no longer stand by. He rose, bravely confronting Collins, asserting dignity for all who had served. The murmurs of support swelled through the room as Jake called for unity. His courage struck a chord, lighting a fire in those around him. But amid this fiery, short-lived triumph, Jake's unresolved question loomed over him: could he heal the chasm with Sarah? Did blood still speak louder than betrayal? As the night transformed into a rallying cry for those fighting for respect, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that his challenges were far from over. The dynamic web of family and community stood at a critical point, teetering between hurt and healing, leaving every heart in the room yearning for resolution. The next morning, the sunlight filtered through the window, casting long shadows in Jake's small bedroom. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The echoes of last night's confrontation still rattled in his mind. He could still hear the gasps of surprise from the crowd. What have I started? He wondered. Part of him felt proud, but another part feared the consequences of crossing Mr. Collins. He got up and slipped on his boots, still weighed down by uncertainty. As he stepped outside, a gentle breeze enveloped him. He glanced at his grandfather's hat hanging on the post outside the door. It beckoned to him like a talisman, whispering promises of courage and resolve. Today was a new day, after all. He told himself he had to face Sarah. At the cafe where they often gathered, Jake found Sarah sitting at their usual table, tracing a circle in her coffee with her finger. She looked up as he approached, her eyes clouded with a mix of anger and sadness. The years of joy, shared laughter, and childhood secrets felt like they hung in the balance. Can we talk? Jake asked gently. About what? She replied, her tone cold. About us. About everything, he pressed, uncertainty gnawing at him. As he sat down, the tension coiled heavier between them. Jake could see that Sarah was battling her own demons, just as he was. I didn't mean to blame you, Jake. It's just everything feels so hopeless. And when I'm hurt, it feels easier to point fingers. His heart softened. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words felt tangled. We're in this together, sis. I would never want us to be at odds. We've weathered storms before. Remember? We can do it again. Sarah's eyes misted over, and he could tell she was fighting back tears. I remember. But things are different now. We're losing everything in that moment. Jake reached out and took her hand. But we're not losing each other. I found something this hat. He gestured toward the door where it rested, a familiar comfort. It reminds me of who we are. Of our roots. If we can grasp that, we can stand strong through anything. Sarah let out a shaky breath. She squeezed his hand, a flicker of hope sparking between them. I've missed you, Jake. I've missed us. They talked for hours as the cafe buzzed around them. They laughed and reminisced about childhood pranks and family gatherings, allowing the warmth of shared memories to melt the icy tension that had built up over time. But outside, the world was still filled with uncertainty. And as they left the cafe together, a sense of newfound hope flickered in the air. Jake, Sarah paused, her expression turning serious. What are we going to do about Collins? That confrontation, it could backfire on us. Jake tilted his head, absorbing her words. Maybe we need to gather the others. We can't let him intimidate us. Together, we are stronger. With determination kindled in their hearts, they set out to rally support within their community. However, there was still one question lingering in the air: would they have the courage to stand together when the storms truly came? Unbeknownst to them, a far more significant challenge was brewing, one that would test not just their family bond but the strength of their entire community. What awaited them around the next corner? As they walked side by side down the familiar streets, Jake could feel the gravity of Sarah's words. The sun shone high in the sky, but an unseen storm brewed in their hearts. The air around them felt electric, charged with unspoken promises and fears. Who do you think we should talk to first? Sarah asked, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her brow was furrowed, showing a mix of determination and worry. Jake could see her steeling herself, just as he was trying to do. Let us start with Mr. Thompson. The town council member? He suggested. He has a good head on his shoulders, and I know he has been worried about Colin's plans. Sarah nodded, but Jake could see she needed more. Do you think he'll listen? I mean, it's not just about us anymore. Nothing ever is, Jake replied, a hint of defiance in his voice. It's about the community. We have to remind people what we're fighting for. They picked up their pace, adrenaline surging through them. A group of kids raced past on bicycles, laughter trailing behind them like a cherished memory. It reminded Jake of carefree days spent without worry, playing until the sky turned pink and gold. As they approached Mr. Thompson's office, Jake paused, suddenly aware of the weight of their mission. Sarah picked up on his hesitation. You got this, Jake. We're in this together, right? She gave his arm a reassuring squeeze. Right. He pushed the door open, the familiar creak resonating in the small room. Mr. Thompson looked up from his desk, surprise flickering across his face when he saw them. Jake, Sarah. Good to see you too. What brings you here? Jake felt his heart hammering in his chest. We need to talk about Collins, Mr. Thompson. He has been bullying us and the whole town really. We can't let him intimidate us anymore. Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. I've heard whispers, but I didn't realize it was this serious. What do you propose we do? Jake took a deep breath, the words tumbling out. We need to rally support. If we get enough people behind us, we can stand up to him. Show him he can't just push us around. We all have a stake in this. Mr. Thompson leaned back in his chair, the furrow deepening on his brow. It won't be easy. Collins has a lot of influence, but if you're serious, I'll help. We can hold a town meeting. Inform everyone and see who we can rally to the cause. Joy bubbled in Jake's chest, but it was quickly tempered by doubt. And if no one comes? If they're too scared? Mr. Thompson's gaze was steady, firm. You'd be surprised how people respond when they see someone standing up for what's right. Sometimes, it just takes one brave voice to inspire others. Feeling emboldened, Jake nodded. Then let us do it. As they left the office, a new clarity washed over Jake. They had a plan, a real chance to fight for their home. But doubt still lingered like a stubborn shadow. Jake, Sarah said, breaking the silence as they walked back to town. What if we fail? He turned to her, determination setting his features. Failure has never come from trying. It's what we do next that counts. Can you see that? Sarah smiled, a spark returning to her eyes. Yet, as they neared the center of town, a flicker of worry danced across her face. I hope the town is ready to listen. We're banking on a lot here. Suddenly, a commotion captured their attention. They hurried forward, heartbeats racing as uncertainty hung thick in the air. What had they stumbled upon? As they drew closer to the crowd, apprehension tightened around them. A figure in a dark coat stood at the center, arguing vehemently. And everywhere, faces were masked with concern and confusion. Is that Collins? Jake whispered, his heart sinking. Sarah's grip on his arm tightened. What is he doing here? The confrontation loomed ahead, a volatile mix of tension and challenge. They just might be stepping right into the storm. Would they have what it took to weather it together? As they pushed through the formed crowd, Jake felt a surge of unease wash over him. The thrumming energy around them pulsed like a drum, the chatter mingling with shouts that pierced the air with urgency. Collins's voice rose above the rest, both commanding and biting. He's not going to back down, is he? Sarah murmured, her eyes scanning the faces around them, searching for some hint of support. Jake nodded, knowing that if there was a moment to take a stand, it was now. We have to find out what's going on, he replied, his resolve hardening. He took a step forward, almost pulling Sarah with him. They wormed their way through the throng, each step amplifying their heartbeat until it drowned out all other noise. Collins stood at the center, gesticulating wildly. This is my land. I have the right to do what I please. He was intense, his gaze fierce and unyielding. Murmurs of discontent rippled through the crowd. People exchanged worried glances, unsure how to challenge him. A woman at the front, visibly shaken, spoke up. But you're cutting down those trees. Our trees. The ones that have been here for generations. Collins just smirked, dismissing her concern. Trees don't make money. Jobs do. Don't you all want your children to have a future? I promise this will bring progress. Progress? Someone else shouted back. At what cost? Jake exchanged a quick glance with Sarah. They both knew he had to speak up. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment that mattered. He could feel Sarah's anticipation beside him, urging him on. With a deep breath, Jake stepped up, heart pounding in his throat. He raised his voice above the others. What you call progress, Collins, isn't the future we want. We want to watch you destroy our community for your profit. The crowd turned, some surprised, others trying to gauge the reaction. Jake could see a flicker of recognition on some faces, perhaps they didn't feel so lonely after all. Collins shifted, his eyes narrowing. And who exactly are you? A teenager trying to save a dying town? Jake squared his shoulders, determination surging through him. I'm not alone, and neither are you. We all care about this place. With every word he spoke, an invisible thread wove tighter among the onlookers. Many began to nod, whispering to each other, sharing agreements, recalling memories of their own childhoods, playing in the very shadows of those trees. Sarah squeezed his hand, her eyes gleaming with hope. You're doing great, Jake. She whispered, though he could barely hear her over the rising tide of voices. Let us hold a meeting then. Another voice from the crowd called. We can all discuss this together. A spark ignited. People began to rally, the anger shifting to resolve. Jake felt the energy shift, the power of community surfacing. But Collins's face darkened. "You think a meeting will change anything?" he taunted, his voice dripping with scorn. "I've already made the arrangements, and your words won't hold me back." For a moment, Jake faltered, the threat draping over him like a heavy cloak. "We'll see about that," he shot back, a fire in his veins even as doubt crept in. Spinning away from Collins, he turned to the crowd. "Will you stand with us?" Nods and murmurs rallied around him, a chorus of uncertainty shading into collective agreement. As Jake felt their strength, a wave of both courage and uncertainty washed over him. The momentum they had ignited was real, but it was just the beginning. Jake caught Sarah's gaze, her eyes wide with determination. In that moment, they were no longer just Jake and Sarah, they were part of something bigger, something that might just change everything. Yet a shadow lingered over them, and the echo of Collins's threats loomed large. They had taken a first step, but what came next could be the storm they feared. Feeling both energized and vulnerable, Jake realized they would have to confront Collins not once, but time and time again until their voice could truly be heard. And deep inside, a lingering question hung in the back of his mind: was the community ready to fight? Would they be willing to put their fears aside to stand up for what was right? As the crowd began to settle into a dull hum of chatter, Jake looked around, noting faces he had known all his life. Some were worn and tired, years of struggling visible in their features. Others sparkled with renewed hope, the kind that ignites when a faint glimmer of resistance flickers back to life. "Jake," Sarah breathed beside him, "do you really think they'll support us?" Her eyes danced with uncertainty. The fear of failure weighed heavily in the air, and every worried glance from the crowd seemed to echo her question. Jake clenched his fists, grounding himself in determination. "They have to. If Collins thinks he can just take over, he is mistaken." The fire within him burned hotter. Each word was a step forward, igniting something he hadn't felt before, a sense of purpose. A distant murmur swelled as a few voices joined in agreement. Against the odds, the community was coming together. Each whisper became louder, and Jake could hear snippets of conversation that fueled his own resolve. "We can't let him destroy our home. Not without a fight." "Where do we start?" Another shouted, ready for action. Using the energy radiating around him, Jake raised his voice. "Let us meet tomorrow at the old park where the trees are still standing. We can make a plan, share ideas. We'll show Collins he can't do this without us." As his words hung in the air, the response was instantaneous. People began nodding, talking excitedly amongst themselves, their passions rekindled. Someone even called out, "I'll bring snacks." And laughter rippled through the crowd, a sound that felt foreign after so much tension. Collins took a step forward, seething with contempt. "You think just meeting will help?" His voice oozed disbelief, but Jake saw the flash of insecurity beneath his bravado. "Your little gathering won't stop the machinery that's already in motion. I have plans." Jake took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of Sarah's hands still intertwined with his. "We have resilience, Collins. That can't be taken away by mere plans or machines. We're not just some names on a roster, we are a community. And together, we're stronger than any threat you pose." The crowd erupted, their voices rising like a tidal wave against Collins' defiance. It ignited something in Jake, a surge of confidence and sheer willpower that he hoped would resonate with every soul present. The look on Collins' face shifted. Irritation morphed into frustration, and he clenched his fists. "Enjoy your meeting. Just know that if you think you can change my mind, you're living in a fairy tale." With that, he turned sharply, storming out of the crowd, the tension trailing behind him like storm clouds. His sudden departure left a space, one that felt the tiniest bit lighter, and Jake could sense the change overtaking the crowd. "Jake, look." Sarah pointed at the faces around them. "They're rallying. They really believe we can do this." Heart racing, Jake couldn't contain a smile. It was growing. That sense of unity was more than just a feeling, it was real and tangible. "Let us get to work," he said, determination etched in his voice. Just as Jake felt the spark form into a flame, a voice broke through. "What if he tries to stop us? What if he shows up at the park tomorrow?" That voice, small but mighty, sent a shiver through him. The reality of their mission weighed heavily once more. Was they ready for the repercussions? Jake looked into Sarah's eyes, the fear mirrored there demanded a response. Then we'll be ready, too, he replied. I won't back down, and neither should you. As the crowd began to disperse, the shadows lengthening in the dimming light, Jake wondered, would they gather the courage to face Collins again? And what other secrets would emerge from this battle for their home? Heaving a sigh, he knew they had set a course. But with such deep waters ahead, tomorrow was bound to test them all like never before. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the small town. It felt like a promise, though heavy clouds still loomed in the distance. As Jake and Sarah walked back to their car, a quiet tension hung in the air. Do you really think we're ready? She asked, glancing up at him. Her voice wove through the evening breeze, wrapped in a thread of vulnerability. Jake nodded, gripping the steering wheel tightly. We have to be. If we don't stand up now, we might never have the chance again. His heart thudded. The risks loomed larger with every thought. Would they truly band together, or would the doubt seep back in? When they arrived home, the family room felt thicker with worry than before. His mother sat on the couch, fingers nervously fidgeting with an old quilt. Jake, what if Collins sends someone to the park? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. We'll face whatever comes, he finally managed. The words felt stronger than he was, a call to arms, but deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him. Later that night, Jake tossed and turned in bed, thoughts spiraling. Images of Collins smirking when he heard the news filled his head. It wasn't just about stopping him, it was about protecting everything they held dear. Just before dawn, he finally drifted off into a restless sleep, plagued with dreams of destruction and determination. He awoke to the sound of rain beating against the window, an alarm bell sounding in his mind. This has to work, Jake muttered to himself as he got dressed. He glanced at his reflection, seeing the shadows under his eyes. He was tired, but energizing fire burned inside him. The weight of responsibility felt tangible, pressing harder than before. Arriving at the park felt surreal. The air was thick with anticipation and the sweet scent of rain-soaked earth. He stepped out of the car to see a scattering of familiar faces, some hopeful, others riddled with fear. But they were there. That accounted for something. Hey, Jake! One of his old friends called out, forcing a smile despite the apprehension. We're ready to fight for our home. Jake's pulse quickened. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for, a turning point. Let us gather everyone, he urged, excitement rippling through him. We need to solidify our plan before Collins shows his face. As they gathered, voices mingled in the crisp air. Each person shared their fears but also their stories of resilience. Jake watched as they came together, hands clasped and hearts open. He felt their energy merge, a current of collective strength pushing back against the storm. Sarah stood beside him, her presence a beacon of comfort amidst the chatter. You know, what if there is something about Collins we don't understand? She suggested, brow furrowed in thought. What if he is not acting alone? Jake's heart sank at the possibility. What do you mean? Maybe there is someone else in the shadows, someone we don't know about, she whispered, glancing around as if expecting eavesdroppers. Before Jake could respond, they heard footsteps approaching. A shadow loomed at the edge of the gathering, a figure clad in darkness, punctuated by the smell of imminent conflict. It was Collins, flanked by a group of tough-looking individuals. Jake's heart raced. The presence of danger electrified the air, a jolt that transformed the gathered whispers into an anticipatory hush. With a swift movement, Collins raised a hand. I told you this wouldn't end well, he grinned, and a wave of murmurs swept through the crowd, doubts threading through the collective spirit they had built together. In that moment, Jake realized something crucial. Facing the fight wasn't just about standing up against Collins, but also confronting the uncertainties that lay within their own hearts. What were they truly capable of? The crowd shifted, eyes full of fear, but Jake could feel the pulse of courage beginning to beat louder amongst them. The ground beneath them felt alive with potential. Whatever comes next, we face it together, he shouted. Confidence surging through him, but in the depths of Jake's mind, a more pressing question lingered. What hidden truths would be uncovered when their unity was truly tested? The tension hung thick in the air as Collins's smug expression sent shivers down Jake's spine. He could see the fear ripple through his friends, the way their shoulders tensed and their eyes darted. Sarah squeezed his hand, grounding him despite the storm brewing before them. "Listen up!" Jake shouted, trying to reclaim their attention. "We won't let him intimidate us. We're all here for a reason. This is our home. We fight for each other, and we fight for everything we love." A flicker of determination sparked in the crowd. Eyes that had been filled with uncertainty now glistened with a renewed fire. But Collins stepped forward, commanding the space with every deliberate move. "Save your breath, Jake. You think these people will protect you?" he taunted, gesturing at the group behind him. "They'll scatter like dust when the storm hits." Jake's heartbeat quickened, but he refused to let fear take hold. He took a step forward, meeting Collins's icy gaze. "No, you're wrong," he called back, his voice steady. "They're here because they believe. We've been tested before, and we'll be tested again, but there's strength in our unity." As if on cue, a whisper of agreement coursed through the crowd. "We're in this together," someone shouted. More voices chimed in, amplifying the sentiment. Sarah caught Jake's eye, a mixture of pride and fear in her expression, as if she too understood the weight of the moment. Collins smirked, but Jake could see the uncertainty flicker across his features. "Is that what you think?" he replied, his tone mocking. "Togetherness will save you? You're all fools to believe it'll protect you from reality." Then, in a swift motion, Collins turned, extending a hand to the figure who had lingered in his shadows. The crowd gasped as another person emerged, a woman cloaked in a long, dark coat, her face hidden beneath the hood. "Let me introduce my partner in crime," Collins announced, and she stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with malice. A collective gasp escaped the crowd as whispers of fear rose among them. "Who is she?" someone murmured, but Jake couldn't afford to lose his ground. Without thinking, he called out, "What's her role in all of this, Collins?" Collins laughed, a chilling sound. "Let's just say she knows a lot more than any of you. Sometimes battles are won without lifting a finger." That's when Jake realized this wasn't just a confrontation, it was a game, a twisted chess match where they were all pawns. A sinking realization washed over him, leaving him breathless. He turned to Sarah, desperation tightening his chest. "We have to find out who she is and what she knows. It might be the key to understanding Collins." Before she could respond, Collins stepped closer, making the distance feel suffocating. "The more you dig, the more you'll wish you hadn't. Secrets can tear people apart." In that moment, a flicker of dread coursed through Jake. What if Collins was right? What if uncovering the truth came with consequences that could fracture everything they had built? But as he looked around, he saw the faces of his friends, determined, loyal, ready to fight. In that instant, the fear morphed into something more powerful. An unyielding spirit awakened. "Regardless of what any secrets hold, we won't back down," Jake shouted, his voice ringing through the park. "Together, we stand strong." As cheers erupted from the crowd, he breathed in the electric atmosphere, letting their unity bolster his conviction. But deep within, doubt gnawed at the edges of his bravery. Just how deep did Collins's darkness run? The woman in the shadows stepped forward, pulling back her hood to reveal a familiar face, one that left Jake's heart racing in ways he hadn't anticipated. The layers of betrayal and deception began to unravel, and Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. "It's time for the truth," she said, her voice echoing with both danger and familiarity. What had he uncovered? And at what cost? Jake stood frozen, the woman's face etched in his mind as memories surged through him like a flood. It was Emma, his childhood friend, someone he hadn't seen in years. The warmth from earlier faded into a cold cloak of confusion and disbelief. "Emma?" He barely managed to whisper her name, the sound breaking the silence like a tense snap. The crowd held its breath, the air thick with tension. They all felt it, the weight of her presence, the strange blend of hope and betrayal that hung between them. She stepped closer, eyes piercing through the anxious faces in the gathering. "I'm not here to harm you, Jake," she said, but her voice echoed with an unsettling chill. I've come to help. Help? Jake repeated, trying to wrap his head around her presence and her words. How could she possibly be on his side? You're with Collins? Emma nodded slowly. I didn't have a choice. But what I know could change everything. Jake could feel Sarah's hand tighten around his, the hesitation in her grip reflecting his own. Trust was a luxury they could no longer afford. How had Emma gotten tied up in all this? Why should we believe you? Collins interrupted, a nasty grin spreading across his face. You think she'll just magically be on your side when she has been with me all this time? She is not a pawn like the rest of you, Emma snapped back, her confidence igniting. I've been watching, learning. Collins has been manipulating everyone. There are things you don't understand. Jake's pulse quickened. Then tell us. What do we need to know? His heart raced with anticipation. Emma could unravel the web of deceit that had ensnared them, but the memories of their past flooded his mind. A friendship that had once felt so easy and innocent now shrouded in doubt. Their essay plans something Collins intends to unravel that could destroy everything we've built. But it means exposing the truth about all of us. Her gaze shifted, scanning the crowd. They stood on the brink, a flicker of hope breaking through the fear. It could save you or shatter what little is left. The murmurs of the crowd intensified, fear mingled with curiosity. Jake's thoughts raced. Could he trust her? The past loomed, heavy and complex. But for the sake of the people he loved, he needed to act. You said you have information. Tell us, he urged, desperately searching Emma's eyes for any sign of the friend he used to know. Collins has a hidden agenda, one that could lead to chaos in our community, she explained. If we can expose him, we can break his hold over you all. But it would mean risking everything. What else do you know? Sarah asked, her voice steady yet edged with anxiety. She had always been the strong one, keeping them grounded when everything felt adrift. Emma hesitated, her eyes darting to Collins, who looked as infuriated as he was intrigued. There's a reason he has so many secrets. Each one is tied to someone here, someone I care about. A chill swept through Jake, chilling him like an unwelcome breeze. The implications were dark, but there was a fire igniting in his chest, a feeling of purpose. We won't let you scare us with threats, Collins. Whatever you've planned will be stopped. The silence thickened, an unbridgeable chasm forming between them and the man who had held them hostage through fear. Jake took a deep breath, turning back to Emma. Help us bring this to light. We can't let his secrets win. If we're going to fight, we fight together. The tension ebbed and flowed, and the atmosphere shifted. Hope battled against doubt, but Jake felt a stir of courage welling in his chest. They were at a precipice, and he could feel the decisions coming thick and fast. Emma seemed to nod, as if acknowledging the gravity of their situation. We need to act quickly. The longer we wait, Collins smirked, cutting her off. You think you can outsmart me? The game is just beginning. You have no idea what you're getting into. As the stakes rose, the line between friend and foe blurred before Jake's eyes. The truth promised clarity, but what it would reveal remained a terrifying uncertainty. Jake took a step forward, determination flaring within him. Then let us play the game. Together. But deep down, he wondered, would the truth really set them free, or plunge them into deeper darkness? The tension hung in the air like thick fog as Jake faced Emma. Time stood still, the echoes of their past reverberating around him. Would she be trustworthy once more, or was this a twisted game orchestrated by Collins? Then what do we do first? Jake asked, forcing his voice to steady. Emma stepped forward, her confidence shining through the uncertainty. We need to access Collins' file room. It's where he keeps everything, his secrets, his games. If we can get in there, we can expose him. Before Jake could respond, Collins chuckled darkly, sliding his hands into the pockets of his tailored jacket. You think it'll be that simple? I have eyes everywhere. You'll never make it through. Jake shot him a glare, his heart racing. We're not giving up. We're smarter than you think. A small smile flickered across Emma's face as she turned to the crowd.
We can't do this alone. Everyone who has been hurt by Collins needs to stand with us.
Together, we're stronger.
Whispers filled the air. Faces lit up with hope and determination.
Jake could see it in their eyes, the collective will to fight back against the shadow that had loomed over their lives for too long. Sarah took a step forward, letting go of Jake's hand.
I'll help. We can gather everyone who is willing to stand against him. I'll join, someone from the crowd piped up. We can't let him control us anymore.
With each new voice joining the chorus, Jake felt the heavy weight on his shoulders lift, replaced by a wave of warmth.
He turned to Emma. Then let us move quickly. We need a plan.
We have to distract Collins, Emma replied, her voice dropping to a whisper as she considered their approach.
If we can keep him occupied, we can get to the file room unnoticed.
Jake nodded, then looked at the crowd gathering.
Who thinks they can draw Collins' attention? Maybe create a scene near the entrance?
Several volunteers stepped forward, a spark of bravery igniting in their eyes.
We can do that. One man declared, cracking his knuckles defiantly.
Okay, Jake breathed, feeling the rush of adrenaline course through him.
Let us do this.
We can take back our lives. As the group set about their preparations, they shared hopeful smiles and rallied together, ready to step out of the shadows of fear. But even as hope surged in his heart, doubt danced like a shadow at the edges of his mind.
Would they really be able to outmaneuver Collins? Would this fight be the light at the end of the tunnel, or would it lead them further into darkness? Time was slipping away. Jake and Emma gathered the last of their supplies, adrenaline tightening their muscles in anticipation.
We can do this, Emma said, meeting his gaze with fierce determination.
I won't let you down again.
As they prepared to set their plan in motion, Jake's heart raced. The stakes were so high, they couldn't afford to fail. The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the cost of their freedom would become painfully clear.
Could Jake truly trust Emma, or would this lead them into a trap?
Together, with a shared breath and a determined glance, they stepped into the chaos, unaware of the impending twists that awaited them.
Time to play their hand. But as they reached the threshold that separated them from the truth, would the secrets uncovered be their salvation or their undoing?
The air was thick with anticipation as Jake and Emma huddled close, flanked by Sarah and the courageous townsfolk ready to embark on one last stand. Today was the day they would confront Collins not just as individuals, but as a united front. Every heartbeat drummed the rhythm of determination within them, ignited by the memories of home they fought to protect. With whispered urgencies, they shared nervous glances, everyone aware of the stakes involved. Jake took a deep breath, his resolve settling into a calm fire.
Remember, stick to the plan. Distract him. It's now or never. Emma nodded, eyes shimmering with a fragile hope. We're in this together.
As they infiltrated the route, a mix of shadows and sunlight danced before them. Collins' office was the heart of his power. If they could gain access, they might expose the man who had caused so much pain. A wave of courage surged through Jake as he caught sight of their gathering distraction team. They were ready, shouting chants about their land, their rights, their unity. The noise echoed around them, fists raised high, hearts pounding like drums of war. Amid the clamor, they surged toward Collins, who was drawn in by their defiance, his face taut with annoyance. A figure waved from the shadows, a friend, someone who had stood by Jake through years of trials.
Now!
Jake commanded, and without hesitation, they bolted toward the file room, every step fueled by unwavering resolve. Inside Collins' office, papers were scattered, decades of secrets compiled into manila folders that had seen better days. The clatter of voices outside mixed with the pounding of Jake's heart in his ears. Here, Emma whispered, already rifling through the stacks.
Let us find what we need and expose the truth.
The moments felt stretched, time playing tricks as every second felt like an eternity. Jake scanned the room, eyes racing to absorb every detail: plans, blueprints, documents stained with looming threat. Emma's fingers danced over the files, pulling out sections that hinted at betrayals, undeclared projects that would devastate their town. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching.
Panic flashed in Jake's eyes. Emma! Hurry!
With shaking hands, she slipped a crucial document into her bag as the door swung open, revealing a furious Collins, flanked by two intimidating figures.
What are you doing here? He yelled, voice a booming echo of rage.
With adrenaline surging, Jake took a step forward, broadening his stance.
We're here to take back our town. You can't intimidate us anymore. Collins scoffed, but something flashed in his eyes: uncertainty. You think you have the power to stand against me? Together, we are more powerful than you realize.
Jake shouted back, heart pounding like a war drum. In that moment, the door behind them swung open again, and the townspeople flooded in, taking their position behind Jake and Emma.
The atmosphere shifted.
Colin's smug confidence melted away, overshadowed by the community's unity.
What's this?
He sneered, but even the bravado couldn't mask the tremor beginning to shake his voice. That's a letter outlining your plans to cut down our trees, demolish what we hold dear, Jake replied boldly, holding the incriminating document aloft.
And we're not letting it happen.
With the gathered crowd chanting behind him, Jake felt strength surge through his veins. It was as if the very earth beneath their feet was rallying behind them. They were standing tall, collectively lifting him on their shoulders.
Silence fell momentarily as Colin's expression shifted. Was it fear? You think the law will protect you? Collins thundered.
We'll make sure it does, Emma called out, drawing the crowd's fervor to a peak.
With this evidence, we'll go to the authorities.
You've exploited us for too long. The crowd roared in response, an explosion of sound that shook the office.
Collins, cornered and visibly rattled, grasped for control.
You'll regret this, all of you, he countered, but Jake could see the uncertainty etched on his face. Shadows of doubt flickered in his eyes.
But we won. Back down, Jake
replied, voice steady, because now we have each other. As tension evaporated, Collins stepped back, realizing that perhaps the tide had turned against him.
His once imposing stature seemed dwarfed by the spirit radiating from the townsfolk.
Get out, he spat, a desperate hiss as hope flickered before him.
No, you leave. Jake shouted back. It's our town.
The roar of the gathered community soared higher, pushing Collins and his companions toward the door.
They began to retreat, realizing their reign of manipulation was over.
The moment hung triumphantly, a sense of victory washing over them. The townsfolk were alive with energy, embracing each other, laughter and tears mingling in the air. They had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. Jake turned to Emma, gratitude filling his heart.
Thank you.
She nodded, emotion bubbling in her eyes.
Together, we can change everything.
As they walked out into the sunlight, shoulders held high, Jake understood that even amidst darkness, light persisted through unity, love, and resilience. They had discovered the heart of their community, undeniable and irreplaceable, fiercely alive under the heady sky. And as they stood there, the future lay ahead, a horizon bright with possibilities. They would build their town anew, a place of hope and family standing shoulder to shoulder. Now was the time for action, for building a more meaningful life together, strengthened by truths unveiled. The shadows that had loomed over them were gone, replaced by clarity and the beauty of community. Jake looked at Sarah, then at the crowd, a warm smile blooming on his face.
Let us go home.
As the sun bathed them in its golden light, they knew this was just the beginning of a greater journey, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever came next.
And remember, if you feel inspired by this incredible tale, now is the time to join us. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below, share your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you.
And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.
Don't wait not even one more second, your support matters. Thank you for being part of this journey.